Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Apostate Weekly. I'm your host, James.
And I'm Ryan.
And this week, we got some stories for you coming out of Pennsylvania about somebody who got arrested for their crimes. We also are going to be talking about a House bill that could possibly be impacting your freedoms coming up, as well as some more stories that you may want to blindly follow here. So keep tuned and listen up. Let's get this show rolling.
Good morning.
What rest does she sing? I want to hear the rest of it, man. Come on.
I know. I kind of just want to listen to the whole song through the
right
for our little show here. Just have it playing in the background.
I know, but you got to have an introduction to rouse interest. Council point number one.
We want to rouse you.
Well, maybe.
Okay, yeah, that's maybe not.
So, anyways, shall we go ahead and jump into the news?
Let's jump in. Let's dive right in.
All right, let's do this. So, let's start this week with good old Pennsylvania. They're in the news this week.
PA in house.
PA representing. And they're representing something good here.
Oh.
We have a guy by the name of Terry Robert Booth who has been sentenced in a sex abuse case. Now, he was from Florida, but he moved to Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And according to this article, he is did an investigation of widespread abuse that he did in congregations across Pennsylvania. And so this is actually coming out of Allegheny County here. And he was he pleaded guilty to one count of corruption of minors, and then he had a plea agreement with the attorney generals to withdraw a couple of other charges against him, including indecent assault and forcible compulsion. And with this guy, though, they have identified 16 other suspects along with him abusing children. So he's in that pool of people that they're going after in Pennsylvania. So they go into some more detail here about what exactly he did. So trigger warning, everybody. If any of this is going to affect you, please tune out. Mm-hmm. But the victim said that this guy grabbed him by the genitals over his jeans. And then he continued on doing other things to his body under the guise of providing spiritual guidance. It's just so sick and disgusting. But long story short, he has been sentenced and he's going to be facing the consequences of it. Now, what the plea deal meant, it's not really clear in this article. I do know that he gets like 3 years of being on probation as part of it. I don't know how much prison time is involved in this case here, but maybe his plea deal was to help the investigators with other cases. It doesn't really say. So, hopefully, if that's the case, I'll give him a little credit. But they were happy to go after this guy, especially because the person who he abused testified against him and also told prosecutors how he had to go through years of therapy and how it's just caused him all sorts of problems with crippling anxiety and just
Yeah.
making it very hard for him to move forward in his own life. And that was a big
Mhm.
thing for the prosecutors in this case, was him coming forward and telling his story to catch this guy and give him justice.
Lost so much life, and I'm very proud of every victim who's ever stood up, because that has to be super horrible to be on a stand, and especially if the accused gets to testify and they're sitting up there denying it. That's what happens in most of these cases, and to have to hear that like straight to your face as the victim breaks my heart. But everybody out there who's ever stood up and you've been a victim at all to anybody or an organization, our hearts are with you. JWs really need to be taught about proper touch and boundaries. It makes no sense that a publishing company can't publish some books about proper touch and boundaries.
Yeah, I never saw that in the Young People Ask book anywhere.
The young people will ask if you've touched yourself.
Yeah.
Right? They care about you masturbating, and if you're touching your body improperly or not according to scripture. But some dude with authority has the right to touch your body. It's what it feels like, because they have that authority over you, and you don't have the autonomy or the education, and a lot of times, to even realize that you're being touched improperly, if that makes sense. If you've not ever really been told about improper touch, you might not even know as a child or a teen that it's wrong.
And just think of this too. The elders aren't even taught how to deal with these situations properly either. So this is a top-down problem from the very top. There is no education from the top down on appropriate behavior for the elders, for the ministerial servants, for anybody. And then when it does happen, they don't know that it's wrong.
No.
The victims, the perpetrators know how they can get away with it because they're not taught. So there's so many layers of this messed up system that these abusers use to purposely get away with their crimes within these confines.
Yeah, it's like a criminal who learns the justice system, a lawyer who learns the justice system and knows how to use the law to break the law. Like, you find the loopholes, and I feel like Jehovah's Witness organizations' existence is just to find the loopholes so they can continue to exist the way that they do.
Exactly. And it's just like the regular publishers, unless you're an elder in the hall, you don't have the elder's manual. And there's a whole bunch of rules in there that you're supposed to follow that you don't know about. But if you break them, then those elders can use those rules against you. But because the elders know, they can use them for their advantage to get away with stuff.
100%. And that is the perfect point. Once you know the rules inside and out, you know how to use them for your benefit, so you never get caught with the evil actions.
And let me give you one good example of that really sticks out to me from the Elder's Manual. So there's a section in there that literally says that if an elder or somebody creates a serious sin and they didn't confess it right away, and if a sufficient amount of time has passed by and they're still considered to be exemplary in the hall and everything, and then they finally want to confess, nothing needs to really happen to them. They're all good. So, I mean, they could have molested a child per se, let 4 or 5 years pass, not done it, still be considered good in the hall, and nothing's going to happen. And on top of that, do you have 2 witnesses? No? Then it didn't happen.
It's in Jehovah's hands now.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Jehovah will take care of it, whatever that means. Oh, what that means is actually you just shutting up so you don't bother us.
Pretty much.
That's how Jehovah's going to handle it.
And I would say that those are the 2 most exploited loopholes in the Jehovah's Witness rules.
Yeah. And that is what's frustrating, is that only a certain group are privileged enough to have access
Yeah.
to the kingdom. Like that is like the keys to the kingdom, and only they have access to it. Talk
Yeah.
about the privilege that these dudes just have innately because they're born with a wang.
Yeah. I mean,
With the lottery, I guess. If you're born a JW man, you just get the way paved for you, and as a female, you just get to fucking walk behind and clean up.
it really was great being a JW male, especially a white male in a white supremacist cult.
Right? I miss my privilege.
Oh.
Damn it. I might go back just so I can tell people what to do, boss them around a little bit.
And now I can have a beard. I mean, even better.
Oh my! I wonder if they'll be okay with your hair. You might even be fine with the hairdo too. Why not?
Hey, what about my I
Tats?
can get it on the camera. My tattoos.
Yeah, the tats. I wonder if that will. I wonder if eventually some of these things will soften up over time, because you have to admit, when you're trying to consistently go to people's houses, you're going to get people who likely, especially because having a tattoo is, it's not, people used to really see it as improper and going against the Bible, and now most days people don't really care
Yeah.
too much.
No, they
So
don't.
you're going to get more and more J-dubs that are going to have tattoos, invisible, like neck tattoos are popular, hand tattoos, things that you're not going to be able to cover as a JW. I feel like at some point they're going to have to just get over it.
I'll just wait for the guy to walk into the Kingdom Hall that has the 2 or 3 teardrop tattoos.
Imagine like, that person coming to your door.
Yeah, right.
Got the suit and tie on, the tears. You're like, I'm not sure what's happening here.
Or like one thing I used to see with like some older guys that I used to work with, a popular thing that they would have like a naked woman tattooed on their arm somewhere.
Now that is something yeah, when it's a naked body, that might be a little bit different.
You're gonna have to wear long sleeves there, brother.
Yeah, I don't know. You're gonna have to put a couple band-aids on that. Just
But
have
it's summertime in Costa Rica. It's hot.
Little tiny band-aids all just covering up a tattoo out. Like
or just put like well-placed band-aids, one over the chest and one over the hips. Be like a bikini band-aid.
Put a marker and draw a bikini on. Okay, anyway, that's a silly thought. Oh brother, the hoops to jump through just to be a Jehovah's Witness. I can't do it anymore. I could not do it. My brain would not be able to take it.
Oh God, no. It's just too much. Way too much.
I bet that it gave you an inside POV that many didn't have. Just getting that, even if your husband didn't realize that he was maybe telling you things he wasn't supposed to, it's just general conversation, him talking to his wife, not realizing you can get a lot of info as an elder's wife. And then not saying you did, Barbara, but I know a lot of them just went around and then shared that information that was really supposed to be kept between whoever those brothers were and the congregant, the member.
Then the elders' wives would tell each other, and then those wives would talk to other people in the hall, and it would spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
I know my mom wasn't in those types of groups, so, I'm not trying to say that she was one doing that, but, that was a common practice. And I will say, though, my mother-in-law is that person.
She's the one. She will do that.
She's the one. Yes. She's the one that you have this, where you have the stereotype elders' wives. She is a very stereotypical elder's wife.
And she enjoys that privilege, right? Because like, for instance, if you were the gentleman and your wife, Crystal, she would get some kind of privileges. And I'm not saying like she has authority over anybody, but she might be able to get away with a few things, talking how she wants to, or dressing. Like there's just a little bit of extra that comes with the wife of an elder. It's a little something.
Yep. You got that little swag in your step.
Yeah. You feel like you belong or you're special. You're in the in crowd. You're in the authoritative crowd, quite frankly.
But even then, though, and I know my dad will most likely agree with this, though, even then, even with elders, you still had your in groups and out groups of elders, of people. Even though they had to meet together as elders and make decisions, you still even had that within those groups as well. Because my dad was always more on the out group of the elders than the in group. So
there's always cliques. You can't help it. Cliques, you naturally gravitate to people that are like you or that you like better. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but you can't just force people to be friends simply because they share the same religion.
Doesn't work. Why did you stalk me for all that time on the internet then, Ryan?
Don't tell everybody.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next story. You want to go on to your
Sure. All right, y'all. So, well, we know that shit's getting wild out there. And there is a bill today that I'm going to beg you to, after this show, to please call your reps to at least check the links and see how your rep voted. Because there is a bill. It's not a new bill. It was actually introduced last year. It was recently introduced again last week. It failed because it needs a majority to win. But they're reintroducing again. They're going hard. They want this bill to go through because Bill HR 9495 is a threat to freedom of speech. This is from Oxfam. The ACLU has spoken out. There's a bunch of different civil liberties groups who have spoken out about the danger of this bill. So I'm going to tell you why it is dangerous, because it will give the Treasury Secretary the power to designate any U.S. nonprofit, including the civil rights groups, news organizations, universities, basically anybody who dissents can be called a terrorist supporting organization. And that would mean that they could lose their status of a 501c3. It could mean that people are afraid to speak up about advocacy. Like for me, for instance, I speak up about people in Palestine. That could mean that, you know, if they designate that a T group, I could get in trouble. It's really going to put the fear in people's hearts and silence them if they're a marginalized group trying to speak up and they're talking about, you know, their political adversaries, which could be, let's say, the Trump administration. If the Trump administration wants to, they could just consider you a terrorist organization, strip you of everything, and then boot you. I don't know where the hell they boot you or jail you. I really don't know what would happen. But it's kind of terrifying. They're voting today. I have a link in the description. You can check how your representative voted. And it also has a link to a script. So it tells you exactly what to say. If you also want to, there is an app called 5 Calls, the number 5 Calls. It also will help you locate your representative, gives you the phone number directly to them. So all you have to do is press a button, you will call them. And it even gives you the opportunity to mark whether you left a message, whether you spoke directly to them. So you can even log who you contacted and spoke directly with. Good morning. So yes, HR 9495, y'all, we have to say no to this bill. It's being voted on today. It is truly a threat to free speech.
And if any of you are following Ryan on X, she posted it on her X account as well. And you'll have the link for the 5 calls to go there to find your representative. Yeah.
And this is what it will look like. If you want to, again, see how your rep voted, excuse me. So right here, and all you have to do is scroll down and it will show you by state. Here's the names over here, shows you what they voted. So if they voted no, you can even call them and say, thank you so much for voting no. Appreciate you. If they voted yes, call them and say, yo, do you realize that you are giving Trump and his administration this sweeping authority to just label a group a terrorist group? And they're removing all the checks and balances, because right now there's checks and balances. There will be none.
Yeah. Yeah, with all the people they're trying to put in the cabinet and everything, they're going to be doing some majorly bad stuff and get away with it.
Dude, how the frick is Elon Musk going to be in our government? And dude is like colluding with Russia. Help me, Jesus.
And RFK Jr. going to be head of your
dude, doesn't he think that there's worms in his brain, or there's worms in people's brains or something?
Yeah. Another anti-vax COVID denier.
How is he going to be the health guy denying that these diseases exist when we have scientists who tell us, nah, dude, they real?
And then they're going to be putting in people that are climate deniers so they can deregulate the stuff they have to do to save the environment. You know, they're just wanting to destroy everything and just wipe us all out to do what? To rule over nothing, apparently.
Well, eventually it's going to be nothing when they steal all our resources, which is their main goal, make us their little pawns and serve us breadcrumbs.
So just keep an eye on all these things, everybody, and make sure you really stay on your representatives, make your vote, especially in your local elections. I know it might not seem as big of an impact, but your small community has an impact going out into the larger communities. And if all the small communities did it, the larger communities would follow suit. So
yes, exactly, James.
So keep up with all that.
Please call. Please, seriously, check the link today, guys. This is not a effing joke. I mean, could you imagine if like CBS gets shut down? Like, I don't know that I fucking like CBS, but that'd be fucking weird if they were stripped of their licensure and stuff like that simply because you can throw a label around like that now.
Welcome to the American News Media. Compulsory watching begins at 8 p.m.
They're just going to install chips in our heads so we close our eyes and it's just going to be broadcast when we sleep. You'll have to pay money to sleep. Otherwise, you have to have commercials. As you
We interrupt this sleep for another commercial.
Are you struggling to sleep? Take natural Reverbitol. It'll knock you out. You'll sleep through 3 commercials guaranteed.
Do you really want to get that deep sleep you never had before? Try cyanide.
In small doses, cyanide can be helpful.
Yeah.
Ask your doctor or pharmacist.
Go to your local feed store to get some cyanide today.
Oh my God. I feel like that's the reality we're living in.
We won't give you abortion pills, but we'll give you cyanide.
Honestly, it's the truth.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to my next story, if that's all right.
Moving along.
Moving on.
Moving on.
So this is coming out of Nigeria, this story. And I call this the blind leading the blind. That's what I titled it in the description. Thank you, XJW Furious. We like to rip a few riffs here and there.
Here and there.
We let her rip, Tater Chip. So the reason I'm bringing this up is especially because it's coming out of Nigeria. It's the Nigerian Tribune. And as you can see the title of the article, the witnesses produce Bibles for visually impaired people. So I know on the face, it's not a terrible thing. If you want to read the Bible, go ahead and read the Bible. That's fine. They're producing it in Braille, which not a lot of people have it in Braille, especially in African countries. Some of these efforts I will give the witnesses are not bad in itself. But what's bad about it is the way they go about it, because ultimately their version of the Bible is going to point towards their version of doctrine. Therefore, their religion, therefore you need to join us. And that is what's bad about this. People will say, oh, it's just the Bible, but the implications behind it and the predatory tactics that the witnesses use to try to lure people into their religion is why I'm bringing this up, and why the awareness needs to be made on these issues, because they'll want to say, oh, now you have the Bible, here, have our literature now, and now you could see how our literature fits our Bible.
Mm-hmm. They just go hand in hand.
Yeah. Everything is Bible based. As long as you write whatever you want in the Bible, it's Bible based. And that's really what's been going on with their translation of the Bible. Their 2013 edition, they changed some things in it. And I was just talking about this the other day with somebody. I forget which book of the Bible it is, where it talks about the older men coming together to make a decision on a situation that happened. But the witnesses like to use that as a reference to call out for a governing body. It's okay for being late. But remember, next time your compulsory viewing starts at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go back and watch earlier to get that joke.
Yeah.
You can do it later. You can do it now. Whatever. You will watch it.
You'll get it while you're sleeping.
That's right.
It's going to come to you.
Don't.
Yeah, we'll know if you watched your compulsory commercials or not. The beds will all be rented, and the way that you pay for the bed is by watching the commercials while you sleep.
And you only get 15-minute increments.
Yeah, that's all
commercial.
It's just like you got to cram it in. The commercial, the 1-minute commercial counts as part of that. So you got 14 minutes to snooze, babes.
There you go.
Oh my God. I'm afraid we maybe should not be saying this, because we might make it our reality. So
yeah, no kidding. But anyways, so in one of the books, it's like around Acts to Corinthians that this is happening. They talk about the older men. And so the governing body uses that as a way of saying they had a governing body, even though the Bible never says governing body. Now, in their new version of the Bible, they have a preface for each chapter or each book of the Bible, and each chapter in that book, to basically give an overview of what that book and those chapters talk about in the Bible. In the preface for that particular book, like I said, I forget which one it is, they put the words governing body in that part of the Bible.
Stop it, they did.
And I know this because I have looked it up myself. Like I said, I forgot which book it is at the moment. It's been a while. It's been a few years since I've done this, but I know it's in there. And so when they do something like that, think about the mind screw it does with the people. Because say you read that preface before reading that book, right? Well, now it has primed your mind to think governing body when you see the older men getting together to do this. And so it just makes that indoctrination seep even further into your brain and makes it harder to get out when they put their buzzwords in like that aren't in the Bible at all.
This is pretty much a shocker to me that they would be so bold and blatant to add governing body to where it did not exist in a Braille Bible, where I would think most people are not going to catch it unless they read Braille.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try to see if I can find it real quick.
But I'm actually gobsmacked about that. I shouldn't be, because this is typical behavior of the organization to sneak little things like that in there. But that's really bold.
Oh, it is. It's
really bold. Going to find out that you were just sliding words in there that don't exist in the Bible. That's cuckoo bananas.
Yeah, it really is.
I'm very pissed off about this, especially because we're talking about people who have disabilities, right? Somebody who can't see, they're relying on this being the same exact book as the other books that other people have, allegedly, that are Jehovah's Witnesses, because everything's so uniform.
Mhm.
Lie. The lie detector test determined that that was a lie.
Yes. You are not the leaders of God's one and only true organization.
You are not the leaders.
Trying to see if I can find this. If you want to go on, you can. If I find it,
Okay.
I'll tell
How
you
about
where it's
this?
at.
No, don't be no worries whatsoever. Let me switch to my new page here. Okay, so we're just quickly going to move on to Mr. Pope. So the Pope of all people is calling for an investigation into whether Israel's actions against Gaza constitute a genocide. Now, y'all know that I'm not like the biggest fan of the Pope, and I kind of feel like this is like the Pope calling the paper white instead of the pot calling the kettle. I feel like this is the Pope calling the paper white, literally. But I do appreciate that the Catholic Church is attempting to make some changes, albeit slow, not fast enough for my liking. And it's only because they've been caught and been found out, right? This isn't because they all feel guilty and they want to do the right thing by God and by their members. This is only because they've been in trouble so many times for the genocides and the people that they've murdered, the indigenous people, the assimilations. There's so many genocides in our history, like the Crusades and Spanish Inquisition. It just goes on. And this is just another genocide in the name of the Bible. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Don't know what will happen. I do not know if anybody is going to listen to the Pope and do an investigation, but I thought that was pretty interesting. A genocider calling somebody else a genocider. I like it.
Crazy.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Right? Yeah, that is really weird. That's the old pot calling the kettle black fallacy.
I'm thankful that they're speaking up. Absolutely.
Yeah. But to what end?
Yeah, and I guess because maybe this is coming on the heels because allegedly, I think we've shared the story that the Pope has apologized for certain things. Like I think they apologized for the residential schools and some other, harmful actions that they've taken over the past, 1,000+ years. For me, I think there's like, retribution needs to happen. Like you need to not only apologize, but there needs to be some money handed over to the peoples that you harmed because you made money off of these genocides, off of the theft of people's land and their harm and the slavery for, using their bodies to do things for this country, for your churches, yada, yada, yada. So I think some money needs to be exchanged.
And really the problem is there is no amount of money that could ever
Oh God, no.
be given to compensate, especially when you've taken somebody's life. Money's not going to do them any good at that point.
No, money won't bring anybody back. Money won't fix what has happened to you or to your family's legacy, whatnot, but it will remove some of the power, authority, and the money from these organizations. And that's why I say go for it, because they don't need it. They don't deserve it. Their victims are the ones who deserve that money.
Exactly. So it's just
Apostle Babe, Linda James, sorry. Yet the GB, the governing body, did not get started until 1972-73. Before that, they had a board of directors. But they say that the elders who would gather at the gates of the Bible times were the GB, governing body of that time. It's the same group. It's basically the same thing.
So I've been looking at the online library and I went to their Bible and I've been trying to find it. I think they removed it off the online library. I've seen it in the hard copy. I'm gonna have to search for the. I have a
Mystery.
Bible. I have a hard copy, not in my room here. I looked already, but I have a hard copy. I'm gonna have to see if I can find it in the hard copy because I don't see it on the online one.
I'm going to write that down. We're going to do some research. I'd really like to see that added GB.
So they call it the outline of contents. So each chapter, each book has the outline of contents.
Okay. The OGGB.
The OGGB. You down with OGGB?
No, you don't know me. Not likely.
I never knew you. Get away from me, you workers of lawlessness.
Get behind me, Satan.
That's right. Yeah, I am just
Can't find. Maybe next week we'll be able to.
maybe.
Or if any of y'all on the chat, if y'all find it before we do, let us know.
Yeah. Like I said, I know it was in the hard copy because I remember reading it, and I remember when I first heard about it, I went and looked it up and I saw it for myself. I'm like, oh my God, these guys got some damn balls putting this shit in the Bible. And I'm guessing they've got some bad feedback about that, and they removed it from their online library. That's my
Somebody
guess.
has to have a screenshot somewhere, I bet.
What I'll do is I'll go try to find it in my hard copy and then compare it with the online library, and I'll have that for us next week.
Yeah, that would be great. Because I'd like to see that.
Yeah, yeah. And what I'll do is when I find it in the actual hard copy, I'll take a picture of it so I can show everybody on the screen.
Yeah. I like it. That's a plan.
That way y'all know I'm not crazy.
Well, don't go too far with that now.
Hey, I'm not crazy. I'm just a little unwell.
Oh, I know. Right now you can't tell.
All right. Well, I think that is everything for this week.
That's all I got.
That's all I got too. So
Enough.
thank you everybody for joining us and entertaining our ravings of lunatics on this channel today. We hope you all have a wonderful week, and we will see you next week.
Call your reps, dudes.
And also, like, subscribe, share, and call your reps.
Hello?
Better represent.
You can leave a message. If their office is not open and you don't want to talk to nobody, you can just call and leave a message right now. Right now. But they're voting today, y'all. And I'm telling you, this will not be good in the next administration's hands. It's really not good in anybody's hands, but definitely not in the Cheetos' hands.
Exactly. So
love you guys.
Get on those phones, especially if you're in America. Take care, everybody.
The train has left the station. We do not have a choice. We have to make these calls. The train has left the station. Love you.
Yep.
Bye.